Well, the pandemic, along with increased cycling infrastructure, has led to the e-bike rising in popularity. A new report shows the global e-bike market growing to $53 billion by 2025. That's up from $32.5 billion just last year. For more, we're joined by CTV science and technology specialist Dan Riskin for another edition of This Week in Science. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, why the e-bike? Why is it so popular?
Everybody was like, e-cars, oh, electric cars are coming. Oh, the future's all about electric cars, maybe flying cars. And nobody saw the e-bike coming, and it is totally taking over, which I love. I've been an avid cyclist for a long time. I don't have an e-bike, but they are just transforming the landscape, especially in urban centers across Canada. And the reason seems to be twofold. One is that the lithium-ion battery has come online mostly for the cars, but that technology has been adapted into the bikes and sort of makes the technology possible. But then two, you have a lot of bike sharing services, especially in cities like Vancouver and Toronto, where people can try these e-bikes out. And we've seen in the States that really leads conversion. People try it out and they're like, oh, I got to get one of these. And then once they have one, they won't shut up about it. And then everybody's getting them. And it really is just taking off like wildfire.
Listen, when you travel to countries like Holland, where you see that bike culture is everywhere, and in fact, they have the right of way, often over pedestrians and cars, how can an e-bike have the potential to transform urban transit? Because people may love them, as you point out, but if you don't have the infrastructure, you got to be careful still.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's funny how sort of guidelines and infrastructure lags behind what's really happening, because in the last decade or so, we've seen a real move where cities have been saying, OK, let's try to help the cyclists out. Let's give them their own bike lanes. Let's put up some dividers. And now all of a sudden sharing those bike lanes with the bikes are these e-bikes that go much faster and in a lot of ways are a lot more dangerous, especially if you're a pedestrian that steps out into their path on not paying attention. So you really do have to watch for them. And that's a piece of infrastructure that you know, we don't really have yet for cities. And so I think a lot of cities are suddenly realizing, oh, we don't even know how to classify these things, because some of them go fairly slowly. Some of them can be souped up. There's something called a class 3, which goes a lot faster than the typical ones you see moving around the city. And those ones almost need to get onto the road where the cars are. And yet the guidelines and the laws just haven't quite caught up yet. And it's another example of this time we live in, where the technology changes so fast that governments just can't make the guidelines fast enough, because by the time they get their heads around it and sort of put it up to a bill or something like that to get voted on, the technology has evolved another 6 months and it's totally different again.
The technology has evolved, or we have another election, one of those two things, and the government changes. What are some of the health benefits for riders and really for the environment overall?
You know what, it's funny, because a lot of people see the electric bike and they're like, well, that's not really riding a bike. You're getting a boost the whole time. But data from the US show that when you have an electric bike, you're probably spending more than twice as much time on your bike compared to if you have a normal bike. And so, yes, you're not pedaling as hard, and yes, you're getting a giant boost from behind, but you are moving your body and you are out there getting fresh air, and you're not putting carbon up into the atmosphere, depending, of course, how your battery was charged. But, you know, there's a lot of benefits. And so I think we're going to see that these e-bikes become a big part of sort of the healthy movement forward, and we're going to see governments encouraging their use. But as you mentioned, the infrastructure needs to come into play, because I think right now you have places like Paris, for example, where they're becoming a big problem because there are so many e-bikes and the city just doesn't really have an efficient way to move them around. And so you have to think about the big picture in addition to the health benefits for the individual.
Yeah, we've got to leave it here, Dan, but there's a big picture and also a bit of a big price tag. Hopefully that comes down soon. Thanks so much, Dan.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.